were the ultra-Orthodox Jews, the Aguda, who have now come to realize that they do have problems like everybody else.
Okay.
And what one would suggest is to begin with them the same way as we began with the Jack's idea, the Jewish Alcoholics Club, independent persons, and others in the late 70s, where we had a one-day conference to discuss this whole matter of addictions in the Jewish community. And I was called to be the keynote speaker of that one. And I'm now suggesting to the Aguda of America the idea that they have a one-day conference for the Jewish professional with a keynote, and that where all these matters can be discussed and put on the table. And we should have also a retreat, that may be the first retreat for the Jewish professional, where they can come and vet the idea, as it were, of my suggestion.
So would the one-day conference and the retreat be the same event or two separate?
No, two separate.
Okay.
The one-day conference would be the sounding board for future plans. And if the powers that be at the Aguda do not agree, then nothing ventured, nothing gained.
And would this one-day conference be attended by the leadership of the organization? Would it be a national conference that leaders from across the country in the movement could come to?
That would be beautiful. But if it would just be for people from the eastern area or a few people from different parts of the country, also be very good. The fact that it could be publicized in that way would be an advantage and would be of great help.
And what would the conference look like?
Well, I tell you what the conference looked like at the first one we had in New York was you had rabbis, you had social workers, you had leaders of federation, money people, all came together with one idea, that there's a problem. We have to tackle it. We can't push it underground anymore.
And so there was a keynote speaker.
Yeah.
In this case it was you.
Yeah.
And were there additional speakers, breakout sessions? How did the day progress?
Now you're expecting me to remember 37 years. Yes, all of what you mentioned. There were breakouts, and then there was a summation, and then we put it, a committee was arranged to go further.
And
the next thing I knew, that there was the first retreat took place.
And so who would pull together the conference in this situation?
The heads of the Aguda and their would come under their auspices, where they would invite people from different federations, different organizations. That's what happened in New York.
And so
there's a program that is written in the book by Alan Blaine.
So at this point, you need to convince leaders of the Aguda to say, let's get together and talk about, do we have a problem that needs to be addressed? And if so, let's...
I think we've gone one step further now. They've gone one step further already. They did have one of their sessions at their last conference, a subject on addictions. They have gone further. But I want to see them go further still, with spending one whole day, 1¾ of a day, on this subject, battling their heads together to say, come on, boys, we've got surahs, we've got troubles, we've got to do something about it.
So they would work with you to pull this conference together.
We hope and pray so.
To determine who would keynote, who would lead the breakouts, what topics would be discussed.
Yeah.
And of course the logistics of finding a location.
There's no questions about it. It's going to be in New York. There's no question about it. So, but it's okay. As long as the seed is sown and the seed is maturing, that's the important thing to me. And I've got,
So do you know who to go to?
Yeah.
To take the next step?
Yeah.
What information do they need to take that next step?
They need it's to admit, they have admitted already that they have a problem and that they are powerless over it.
A little rusty on my 12 steps. So
that's step one.
They've gone through step one.
And now they must be coming to hand it over to, let's say, a power greater than themselves, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to put an inspiration into people's minds and hands to go to the next steps.
From a practical matter, what do they need?
You can charge for it. You need a room. Alright, let's put it this way. You need a room enough to hold 50 to 100 people, or maybe smaller. But everybody will come dedicated to one idea, that we are going to do something. This isn't just an escapade for one day. It has to, and it's going to be an ongoing thing. We have proof it can work, because Jax is going for 37 years now. And everybody knows about it.
So the focus of this conference is specifically for the ultra-Orthodox Jewish professional who
is suffering,
needs some sort of assistance with addiction, professional stresses, personal stresses.
Exactly.
And in their last conference, or in a conference, there was a session about addictions.
Yeah.
So there's an acknowledgement that it's been raised to a level that it warrants some attention.
And it's got also, it has the backing, the endorsement, the word backing is the endorsement of leading lights in the movement.
So what's holding them back from doing something?
What do you think is holding them back?
I don't know. Inertia?
Yeah. It's got to be made into a priority. That is important. The cream of the crop are suffering. It's not going to go away. It's affecting the cream of our youth, and it's affecting the cream of our professionals.
So, I still come back to they know it's a problem. They've acknowledged it. It's been a topic at a conference.
And they don't push up the rear end to say, come on boys, let's stop talking, let's do. Actions speak louder than words.
So how do you administer the proverbial?
By this, by the idea that it's now, here's a video of this, and here, and I have made up a booklet with all my proposal written up and all the aids needed, which I gave to you, yeah? Send it out. And see what the reaction is.
Okay. And do you have the name, the contact information for the people to...
Everything.
Okay. So...
I can even envisage the scene, envisage the scene.
Do you know the people you would have speak? The topics on which they would speak, who would facilitate the sessions?
Well, that would be up to the leading people in the organization. I would give them ideas who work the people. Actually, I was in New York a month, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I mentioned it to honorees at the birthday party I went to, and one of the sons of the honoree, by Dr. Bensky and Tversky, said, come on, let's do it. And another one, Rabbi Feldman from Atlanta, come on, let's do it. And his uncle is the big rabbi in Yisrael Yeshiva in Baltimore. And Rabbi Kamenetsky from Philadelphia, these are big boys. What it needs is, and I'm prepared to do it now, a nudge. Say, come on. As I said to your wife some weeks ago, and she made me laugh and said, don't say, I need to do this. Say, I'm going to do it.
Well, I was thinking the same thing.
Now we're ready.
It sounds to me that...
This Charlie Rose. Yeah, sure.
It sounds to me that you have mind share of individuals who can help make this happen. And from my limited perspective, it sounds like a few phone calls, and this is something that happens. I'm not sure that we need a video production and that we need other things at this point if you already have leading rabbis on board.
I also feel that as well, but sometimes there's two ways of doing this. I'm doing this for my own personal what's the word I'm looking for? Perspective. but I've got it on record.
Okay.
And I can either send a copy of that to them, or somebody can transcribe it and put it into letter form. I'm better off on speaking than I am just typing stuff. So I understand what you're saying, but it's just from my own personal perspective, it would be easy. It's easier for me to verbalize.
Well, I have great respect for that, and I suspect that your comfort level of speaking with the individuals who need to be engaged, I presume is high.
What can I do? They can either say, yeah, go away and get lost, and come on, we'll do it.
Which is a very healthy perspective.
Yeah.
And given that, it seems to me that a personal phone call, a personal discussion with each of the individuals to bring them on board will get you further faster than sending out videos or letters or emails.
Now here we might agree to disagree on something. But people always say, send me something in writing. Something tangible. And at the next board meeting, I'll get it on the agenda. But I've got to have something in writing. Or in a video. That's the image that I've had over the years. Some of the people who don't know me say, who's this crazy fellow from Minnesota, But if there's something in writing for them to touch, that's it. Just look at this, read it before you reject it.
And so how much do they need for that agenda?
Well, how much do they need? They need something that's... Some people need a letter. Some people need a whole what do they call it? Perspective, a whole proposal. Just to set up a committee, for the committee to discuss the proposal. Like that book that I gave you, with all that in. Send that to them and say, what is this? You think we could send that out?
Well, it definitely could be sent out.
Followed up by a phone call.
It's a difficult process because, in my experience, mostly in business, but to some degree in nonprofit organizations, I have found that if leadership of an organization believes in something and sees it as a priority, a lot of the proposals and paperwork and all that kind of stuff is far less important and becomes more of an impediment in the decision-making process. It tends to be used more as an excuse to delay something, to...
Yeah, we know that.
That relationship building with the people who either make the decision or have the influence goes a long way towards smoothing out the process.
Yes, I'm not arguing with one word that you've said. But we're dealing with bureaucracies here.
Well, I understand, but bureaucracies
Like
are...
the Catholic Church, the Agudas are basically the same.
I'll trust you on that. I would be skeptical, but the commonality of human bureaucracy is undeniable. And yet there are people behind...
The key people.
And you've mentioned names of leading rabbis who have said, let's do it. And so I wonder about how can you add to your credibility and parlay their goodwill, their
letters of endorsement from them.
To
be my concern, you know.
Who can... Letters of endorsement are great, but who can they call?
Oh, they can call the same people as I can call. They have done.
Will their calls be taken?
Okay.
And when the call is answered, will what they say reverberate?
Oh yeah. I'm not talking about... I'm talking about world-renowned figures. I'm not talking about little Schmuggy Joe from Minneapolis. I'm talking about people who's big boys. I'll show you. Later on I'll show you. There's an article in one of the Mishpacha magazine this week that actually says everything. By one of the Rosh Yeshivas of Baltimore. I'm doing this as a sounding board now.
Well, and it's a wonderful exercise. And that's why I'm pushing you on different ways to get to the prize.
Yeah.
It seems to me, if you have the support and endorsement of these world-renowned rabbis who are respected, that the committee process can be short-circuited, or at least the process can be shortened if you were to call these individuals who you already know support the idea and say, we talked about this a few weeks ago, you said let's do it. I agree, let's do it. Here's what I need from you. I need you to make a call.
Yes.
You know the idea, you get it, you like it, you support it. I need you to make a call. I'm calling these other rabbis as well, and I'm going to ask them to do the same thing. Because we both know the time has come. We have to do something about it.
That's exactly right.
And I really would appreciate your help in doing that. And suddenly, the top person or two, whoever needs to receive the call, receives several, all from people
who we can't ignore.
And suddenly says, okay.
Let's do it. Okay.
May in New York.
May or even September, whatever it is.
Whenever it is, they'll find a way to put it on this calendar and to put out the word that it's time to come to New York and talk about this issue. And there can be supplemental information. Your proposal is very, very specific, very detailed about a solution. And the one concern I would have about bringing a solution at this point is your request is for a conference to discuss the problem, and set up the retreat
Yeah.
to discuss the solution, which I think is a very wise model, because when the people are engaged in coming up with the solution, even if it's the exact solution you recommended, but if they're part of the process of developing it and you help guide this,
It's good for their ego.
good for their ego, it's good for their buy-in
Yeah.
when they're part of the process in coming up with that. And you end up at the same.
That's right.
So your proposal, I think, becomes your guiding document at this point for where you want to get people, and your primary objective at this point is,
We got to start off somewhere, and that
is getting those leaders in the movement who can't be ignored to make the phone call, write the email, however best they communicate, that raises the issue, so the national leadership call a conference and say, Rabbi Wolfe, help us out.
Okay. Let's do it.
And it sticks with your strength, which is talking.
Yeah. Okay. So, thank you for letting me get that off my chest.
My pleasure.
Now, what I'm going to do now is that booklet that I put out, and which you've got, didn't cost me anything to make, and I get a few of those out and send them out. People see no monkey business here. This is tachlis. So this is